On today's episode, 8 restaurant terms you should already know. Alright, so you might be familiar with my book, The Surprise Restaurant Manager. For new managers, you should read it front to back. And if you've been in the industry for a while, read it from back to front, because there's a quiz at the end that will assess your knowledge. And then you can just go back and read the chapters that interest you. But in the very back, I have a glossary of terms. And I figured today we'd go over 8 of them and talk about them. These are pretty straightforward, but a few comments along the way. Number 1, auctioning food. That's when you go to a table and you say, all right, who had the salmon? Completely avoidable. All you have to do is make sure you have seat numbers along with table numbers, and that your runners, servers, managers, whoever is running food knows those tables. If you're properly entering seat numbers, you should never be auctioning food. And this is especially important when it comes to allergies, because you should be announcing those allergies when you're presenting the food. Nothing more scary than having a food allergy and not being reassured that that allergy has been acknowledged when you're receiving your food. Number 2, the board, as in the ticket board in Expo. Why do I bring this up? Because as a restaurant manager, you should not be leaving until that board is clear. If you're the manager who came in for the lunch shift at 10, you shouldn't be leaving at 7 when the board is slammed. Just because the book is in and you've got all your reservations set doesn't mean that that's a good time to leave. Number 3, Clopin, as in a close open. That's when you schedule people to close and then open the next day. Now, not only is this not legal, because you can't really have somebody work till 2 a.m. and then have them come back at 9 a.m., and as managers, you shouldn't be clopening either. Yes, you're going to tell me that it's unavoidable at times, and you're also going to tell me that there are some people that prefer it. Just because you can clopin doesn't mean you should. It's just a quick path to burnout. Avoid clopins with your staff and avoid clopins with yourself. Number 4 is a comp. You know what a comp is. It's when you're taking care of somebody because they've had a negative experience, because they've had a positive one, or possibly they're in the industry. Keep in mind that comp is an inside term. You don't walk to a table and say, hey, I'm going to comp you a dessert. That's not how you table touch. Also, make sure you're just not auto-comping. Comp based on the experience and based on logic. If you're just automatically doing a flat comp all the time, it's going to lose its value and its impact. Number 5, 86. Yeah, I told you that these terms are ones that you are already going to know. However, the 86 list definitely can present challenges if you're not managing it properly. Sure, you can go to the POS and just go ahead and mark it out, but does that tell your servers? Does it tell your host who might be taking to-go orders? How are you getting that information out to everybody? You just going to write it on a dry erase board in the back and assume everyone's going to tell everybody else? Tell everybody we're 86 brisket. When you're dealing with 86s, that's why being on a count helps. I've got 2 salmon left. And then everybody knows when they go to the table, hey, I know that we're low on salmon. Let me go ahead and check and make sure that we have one so I can put that back for you. You need to come up with a system of communication. Number 6 is on the floor. A very basic term of where you should be as a manager. On the floor, in the dining room, talking to tables, engaging and making it better for your staff. If you're a good manager, you're engaging with the guests and you're improving the experience. Don't ever be that manager who just camps in the office. Number 7, on the fly. Again, terms you should know. But as a manager, if something is on the fly, meaning coming out quickly in the kitchen, then there's a very good likelihood that there was a miscommunication at the table. And as a manager, you should be talking to that table. On the fly usually means that a server didn't ring something up, or that a kitchen possibly made something incorrectly. Yes, on the fly sometimes it's a guest request, but more often than not, it's usually server error or kitchen error, which means as a manager, you should be at that table. In a lot of restaurants, it's procedure that on the fly is run by a manager to the table. And the only way you're going to know that is if the kitchen can communicate with the manager. And how do they do that? Radios. I get it. You hate radios. You don't like them. You find them bulky and annoying. You take them out of your ear whenever you talk to people. But they're really essential for the kitchen to stay in contact with the floor. On counts, on 86s, on allergies, and on the fly. Oh, and when you have your radio, make sure that your cord is under the shirt. Nothing looks goofier than you walking around with a bunch of cords as you're talking to tables. And number 8 is truck stop busing. And what is that? It's this. When you put your fingers in the glass where you're clearing the table. It's gross. That's where lips go. That's why you bring a tray to the table. All right, that's it. 8 easy terms you should already know from my book, The Surprised Restaurant Manager. If you're not into reading, you can also listen to me on Audible for 5 hours. Does sound like fun, doesn't it? By the way, I just had a friend buy my book on eBay. He found a signed copy. He paid $5 for it. I don't know how I feel about this. On the one hand, it's kind of cool that something of mine is being auctioned. On the other hand, $5 keeps me grounded. That's for sure.